Many of us are familiar with the story about a meal that Jesus provided. It's the biggest meal found in anywhere, especially in Scripture, but possibly anywhere in the world. It's typically known as the feeding of the 5,000 that we're going to be looking at this evening. But there's so much deeper meaning to the feeding of the 5,000 regarding just numbers alone, not looking at even the spiritual meaning, just looking at the pure numbers. The Gospel of Matthew gives the notion that there were only counting men in those days. And we know that in ancient times, men were counted. So Matthew 14, verses 20 to 21, it says, "So they all ate and were filled, and they took up 12 baskets full of fragments that remained. Now those who had eaten were about 5,000 men, besides women and children." Why is that important? Because when we look at this story of the feeding of the 5,000, it's 5,000 men that were counted. See, if you look at men and women and children, it could be as high as 15,000, maybe even 20,000 people that we're going to look at right now that God performed a miracle to feed them. Not just to feed them with the necessity need of just a little bit of feeding, but to the max, to the fullness. They were completely full. So the miracle that we're looking at is so much deeper. And Jesus, what's so interesting is he gave it freely. He gave the meal freely. It was a lunch he provided for everyone on the shores of the Galilee in Israel. See, it's something that we in our day and age in America really don't understand. We can't grasp being poverty, being poor. We might sit here and say, no, we understand that. No, in America, we really don't understand that in the days of Jesus. See, we have many restaurants, we have groceries, we could go to many different places. And even if we're living on the street, there's very many services that we could get a meal. And that's a fact in America. But here, 2,000 years ago, approximately, with the time of Jesus, they didn't care what they were eating. They didn't care where they were going to eat. They just cared that they got something to eat. Many, many people lived in such a way that what they worked for that day is what they ate. So many were malnourished, many were living under the poverty line, and they couldn't even get meals daily at all. So we're looking at something in this setting, in this context, of these people sitting there following Christ. But what is interesting to us is that the children of Israel, they knew that receiving a meal from somebody was a blessing. It wasn't a requirement. It wasn't an entitlement. It wasn't something that they were expecting. It was expected. It was a blessing when somebody would do that. And I think that's something for all of us to understand and to gain a greater knowledge, especially us younger people, is that it's very clearly written in the Bible. Apostle Paul writes to the Thessalonians in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 10. He writes this to the church. "For even when we were with you, we commanded you this: if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat." In Proverbs 14:23 in the Old Testament, Solomon writes this in the book of Proverbs in chapter 14, verse 23. "Work brings profit, but mere talk leads to poverty." He goes on in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 4, he says, "Who has a slack hand becomes poor, but the hand of the diligent makes rich." The Bible is very clear, and it speaks throughout all Scripture that we are a people that should work diligently. We should be a people that are in the family of God that do an honest day's worth of work if we can. And that's how we were raised. That's how I was raised, providing our needs, not expecting a handout. Nobody owes us anything. And I think that's something to be said for this generation as we move forward. Nobody owes us anything, guys. That we should work hard for what we deserve and what our needs are. So that's what makes this miracle of the feeding of the 5,000 so rare. It makes it an exception. It's a rare for a reason for these reasons that Jesus would do this. Jesus never, throughout the Scriptures, we see never gave money to anyone. He never gave handouts like that. We don't see that. And rarely did he give food for anybody. He expects people to work. He told the disciples, don't take anything with you when you go out 2 by 2. And whatever they provide for you, it's a blessing. You'll get your food from there as you preach the gospel and labor in the work of the ministry. We need to understand that.